Hi everyone, in today's video I'm going to share with you some ways that you can use Dollar Tree fabric to create custom fall decor pieces for your home. This is the third episode in my fall series for 2023. If you missed any previous episodes, I will have a playlist in the description box below. I hope you enjoyed today's projects. For our first project, we're using two of these Dollar Tree signs. Now, they are already super cute, but we can enhance them just a little bit. I'm going to remove each of the raffia bows and then try to separate the two pumpkins without breaking it. I started off with my Cricut spatula. I wasn't quite sure if it was nailed together, but it turns out it was just glued, and it is really easy to pull those two pieces apart. And I'm going to do the exact same thing for the other sign. Now, I was fortunate enough that the paper on mine came off very easily. So you want to remove the paper from the two larger pumpkins and make sure you have a nice smooth surface to work with. We're going to take some Mod Podge and apply a layer on top of the two largest pumpkins. Really emphasize on the edges, but you want to make sure that you have the entire top of the sign covered with one layer, and then let that fully dry. We're going to be using some gorgeous fabric from Dollar Tree. So we're going to use this orange with the white pumpkins on it. And then Dollar Tree also carries some buffalo check fabric. Now I have a scrap of like gingham print, but the buffalo check would be just as beautiful. Now that the Mod Podge has dried, lay your fabric on top of your sign and line up the design. Then place a piece of parchment paper on top of your fabric. And then you can use a household iron, or I'm using my mini heat press. I have it set on 375 degrees, and I'm going to go over the entire top part of that sign. Also making sure that I really emphasize on some of those edges. So it does not take long, but what this is doing is reactivating that Mod Podge so that your fabric will adhere to the sign. And it is going to be wrinkle-free and absolutely perfect. So once you have applied the heat to the entire part of the sign, you can test it to make sure that it has sealed just by lifting it up and making sure that the edges are sealed. So I'm going to set that to the side, let it cool off a little bit, and we're going to do the exact same thing on the other side with the beautiful orange fabric. Now that the Mod Podge has cooled down, we can trim that excess fabric off. I'm going to use this rotary blade. This came from Dollar Tree. This is going to give me a very close cut around the sign. Now for some of the more detailed areas, you can use a pair of scissors just to trim that fabric as close as you can. Then take a piece of fine grit sandpaper and go over the edges of it to give it a nice detailed finished look. We're going to do the exact same thing for the other sign. Now you could reattach the original raffia bows, but I want to reuse this small brown pumpkin, and I have some raffia in my craft room. This came from Amazon, and I will have that in my Amazon store if you guys are interested. This just matches that pumpkin a lot better. So I pulled off a nice long length and then folded it over in half twice. And then I'll cut the loops at the ends off, and then I'm just going to tie this around the stem of the pumpkin into a nice bow. And I am going to leave some of the length of my bow on there because I'm not sure how short I want to trim it just yet. Then we're going to take a square from Dollar Tree, and we're going to use this to line the bottom of each of our pumpkins up. Since this will be standing up, we want to make sure everything is even and that it will sit flat. And we're going to attach that beautiful small pumpkin right in the middle using some hot glue. Once I have that in place, then I can go back and trim off the tails of my bow to make sure that they are not covering up that beautiful center pumpkin. I thought it would be a beautiful addition to use one of Dollar Tree's burlap flower stickers to add right on top of that center pumpkin. Now, these stickers, the backing does come off very easily, so I'm going to attach mine using some hot glue. I think this piece turned out so beautiful, and I would love to know what you guys think. For our next project, we're using this Dollar Tree frame. It measures roughly 7.5 inches by 11.5 inches on the outside of the frame. The backing piece, we're going to remove that flower, and I tried my best to remove the paper, but it was very difficult to remove. So I'm just going to flip it over and use the back side. I'm going to go ahead and remove that hanger and then sand those holes down nice and smooth. Now, if you want a nice finished look, you could always cover that other side with some craft paper, but still use that as your backing. We want that nice smooth side to apply our Mod Podge to. So I'm going to, again, just like we did in the previous project, add a layer of Mod Podge to the entire sign and then allow that to dry. And if you have any large clumps in your Mod Podge, make sure to wipe those off because they will interfere with your fabric. So now that that has dried, we're going to use this gorgeous fall fabric from Dollar Tree. It has a nice flannel look to it. I'm going to try to very carefully line up this design since it has a lot of lines in it. I'm trying to make it as straight as possible. Again, we're going to use that parchment paper and our mini iron to reactivate that Mod Podge. And for this piece, I started in the center and worked my way out to the edge to make sure any wrinkles were removed. Then we can trim that excess fabric off, put this back into our frame, and have you guys seen these beautiful rolling pin signs from Dollar Tree? They are absolutely beautiful just on their own, but I thought that by adding it to this frame, we could really elevate this piece. Now, my bow was about to fall off, so I removed that hot glue and then reattached it with some more hot glue, but I did put it a little bit closer to the sign so you could see more of the handles. I love that these handles have this natural wood color and that they match our frame perfectly. We're going to attach that in the center with some hot glue. You could add a few embellishments at the bottom, like some of these styrofoam pumpkins, but I think it's gorgeous just the way it is. For this project, we're using one of Dollar Tree's rectangular glass vases. I'm going to measure right under that top rim, and it is roughly 7 inches, and then around it, it's about 8 inches. Then we're going to use some of Dollar Tree's beautiful fall fabric. I love this design. It almost reminds me of like a scarecrow. I'm going to lay my glass out to determine how I want the design to lay out on the glass, and I chose this way. It is almost the perfect width for the size of each section of the glass. Then I'm going to use my rotary tool to cut out that size, which was about 7 inches by 8 inches. Then we're going to take Mod Podge and apply a thin layer, one section at a time. So I'm only going to do one side. I'm going right below that top rim down to the bottom. Then apply the fabric while the Mod Podge is still wet. Press it out, make sure everything adheres well and that you don't have any wrinkles. And then we'll do each section at a time until we get back to where we started. Where that very end piece overlaps, I'm going to peel that back, make sure I add a nice even layer of Mod Podge, Press that down, make sure there aren't any wrinkles, and then I'll go back over top of it with some Mod Podge to make sure that it doesn't come apart. Now, if you're going to be using some water and real flowers in this, I do recommend that you go over the outside of the fabric with the Mod Podge. I'm only going to be using artificial florals, so I did not need to go over the fabric with the Mod Podge to seal that in. If you have a little bit of excess on the bottom like I did, just add your Mod Podge and push those edges over and fold the corners down. I'm going to use some of that raffia from Amazon to create a bow. I cut a nice long length, folded it in half twice, cut the loops off of the ends. I'm going to wrap that around right underneath that top rim, tie a bow, trim it down, and then I thought it would be pretty to add another one of those Dollar Tree burlap stickers. This time we're going to use the darker brown burlap. Hot glue it right in the center. I'm going to decorate mine with some of these Dollar Tree natural pumpkin picks. They come in a variety of colors. These are absolutely gorgeous. I'm going to trim some of them down so that they will sit in there at different heights. And I love how this turned out, and I hope you guys like it too. If this is your first time visiting my channel, welcome. My name is Barbara. On this channel, you will see a lot of budget-friendly home decor projects. We create a lot of Dollar Tree DIYs, room makeovers, furniture flips, and occasionally share some organizational tips and tricks. If you enjoy this type of content, I hope you'll stick around by clicking that subscribe button. If you like more of a rustic, natural fall decor, grab a wood slice. Make sure it has a semi-flat side to it. If not, use some sandpaper to sand that flat so that it'll be able to stand up on its own. Then take the fabric of your choice, turn it with the design facing the wood slice, and trace out a little bit smaller than the face of the wood slice with a marker and cut that out. We're going to attach it to that wood slice using some Mod Podge, and it will take quite a bit because this wood slice is just soaking that Mod Podge up. Once you have a nice layer on there, apply your fabric and then make sure it's flat. I decided to go over mine to seal it in with more Mod Podge. Let that dry, and I'm going to use one of Dollar Tree's laser cut leaves as well as one of their wood stems. I'm also using some of their fall pitberry garland. I'm going to wrap that around the end of a paintbrush to give it some nice curls. Then I'll cut that down to size. Then I'm going to wrap that around my small wood stem. Once I like the way it looks, I'm going to hot glue that down to the top part of our wood slice to make the stem for our pumpkin. And then I'll add that laser cut leaf to the front of that wood stem. Make a small messy bow using some twine, add that to the front of your pumpkin, and this project is complete. For our next project, we're using one of Dollar Tree's round signs. Remove the hanger as well as the label and add a layer of Mod Podge just like we did in our previous projects. While that's drying, we're going to take one of Dollar Tree's 3D wooden pumpkin signs. Now, I filled in the hole at the top that was holding the hanger with some wood filler and then sanded that down nice and smooth. I'm using some pumpkin acrylic paint, but I want to darken it a bit, so I'm going to add a little bit of brown oxide. I added a little bit too much, but we're going to work with it. I'm going to mix that up really well and paint this entire top part of the sign with one coat of this mixed paint. As it dries, it lightens up and you can see some of this beautiful wood grain. I'm using one of these wood word cutouts. This came from Hobby Lobby in a pack of 6, and you can get these on sale. Sometimes you can find these wood cutout words from Dollar Tree. I'm going to give this one coat of white acrylic paint and allow that to dry. The fabric we're using for this project is this gorgeous sunflower fabric from Dollar Tree. It has some blue and green leaves, and it's just absolutely gorgeous. Now that our Mod Podge has dried on our sign, we're going to adhere it to the top just like we did in our previous projects with the parchment paper and a small iron or your household iron. This has become my favorite way to adhere fabric to items. Maybe we can try it sometime in the near future with a napkin. So now that that has cooled, we're going to trim that excess fabric off with our rotary blade. Now we're going to adhere our wooden pumpkin right to the center of our fabric covered sign using some hot glue. I want to create a hanger on the back since I've already removed the previous hanger. So to do that, I'm going to use some hot glue, twine, and a couple of pieces of fabric. That's going to hold that twine together and keep it from popping off. Now to embellish the front, I'm using this metal stake from Dollar General for $1. It is so pretty, and these sunflowers match perfectly, and the blue in the truck matches perfectly with the blue leaves in the fabric. To pull that stake out, you just lift that tab up and just wiggle it a little bit. That stake will come right out. I'm going to cut that excess metal off the back and then push it down to make sure that it doesn't scratch anything or nobody gets cut. I want to pop it off of the wooden piece a bit, so I'm going to add one of Dollar Tree's tumbling tower pieces to the back of that metal truck, and to do that I'm using some E6000 and hot glue. Make sure you use a permanent glue such as E6000 to attach that tumbling tower piece to the back of the metal truck, because if you use only hot glue, that will pop off. Now you can use the hot glue on the back of the tumbling tower piece to attach it to your wooden pumpkin, and then we'll go ahead and attach our thankful word as well as the raffia bow that came on that 3D wooden pumpkin. I just moved it a little bit closer to the bottom of the stem. You could be finished with the project, but I wanted to add a border on mine, and I'm using some of Dollar Tree's nautical rope as well as some hot glue. I find that it is really easy if you do small sections at a time, and then when you get to the end, kind of cut it at an angle so you can try to blend that in together with some hot glue. I hope you enjoyed today's projects, and if you have a favorite, let me know in the comment section down below. I always love to know which one is your favorite. Thank you so much for spending time with me today. Please take care, and I will see you guys next time.